So now, amidst the rubble, law enforcement agencies are in a new race against time to find the people who did this. As the day wears on, no confirmation is given to reporters about the cause of the blast, but officials do not hide their strong suspicions.
We'll give you a certain conclusion when we can prove it. It looks like a bomb, it smells like a bomb, it's probably a bomb.
A group of investigators is assigned to work inside the crater created by the bomb. NYPD Detective Donald Sadawi and ATF Agent Joe Hanlon are assigned to the same team.
It was a survey mission. We also had the mission to attempt to take swabbings that could be taken back to the laboratory later that day and examined to possibly get a lead on the type of explosive that was used.
We didn't know who had perpetrated the bombing. People were scared. The city was scared. It was the start of a new phenomenon.
It wasn't something that just happened in London or Beirut or the Philippines. It could happen any place.
Finding clues amid the rubble would be next to impossible.
The first major breakthrough in the investigation came when FBI agents at the scene of Ground Zero discovered part of the vehicle chassis of the van that had been used to transport the bomb into the building.
Miraculously, the VIN, or Vehicle Identification Number, is still legible on the manifold.
The FBI then traces the van's registration to a Ryder rental agency in New Jersey. The van was the same vehicle rented and reported stolen by Mohammed Salameh.
My beeper went off, and it was Detective Napoli calling me, and he said, I called the number, and he said, "You're not going to believe it, but they found the remnants of the van that was used to carry the explosives, and it was rented in Jersey City, and it was a Ryder company, and the person who rented it was Mohammed Salameh." And I tell you, I was like, oh my God, Mohammed Salameh. We had photographs of Mohammed. We have photographs of Mohammed training at the range. He's a friend of Nosir. He's a friend of all the guys that we've been looking at for the last few years. And I said, these are the guys we were looking at.
Salameh arrives at the rental office in New Jersey to pick up his $400 deposit on the van. When he arrives, an agent greets Salameh from behind the desk. But he is not a Ryder agent. He's an undercover agent with the FBI.
After some discussion, Salameh walked out. As he stepped out of the office, dozens of FBI agents who had been monitoring their discussion descended upon Salameh. Less than 1 week after the bombing, the FBI had a suspect in custody. Salameh said little to the agents who questioned him about the bombing. They knew it was probable that he had not acted alone.
The FBI was staking out the lot when Salameh showed up with his stolen vehicle report this morning, this time getting his $200, then walking outside.
And they must have signaled other guys up the street, and there were FBI guys on both sides of Kennedy Boulevard, and they pulled up in a car, FBI guys with their jackets, and put them in a car.
Put them in a car.
And that was the end of it. There was
no
not
resistance, nothing like that.
Not that I could see. I didn't hear any. I was right outside. I didn't hear any fighting or anything. I think they surprised him.
He came back a number of times. He came back Friday afternoon and told me that the truck was stolen from his possession.
And he wanted his $400 deposit?
He wanted his deposit back.
Sources tell Fox News the FBI has been conducting searches all over Jersey City, one of them at this apartment building. Gladys Moore, who lives here with her Egyptian boyfriend, says FBI agents broke down her door and ransacked her apartment.
Oh, they took a piece of my hair, and they put some things in my hands, and they took a test, they sent it out, they came back and they said I could go.
When Salameh was arrested, agents recovered various personal items, including his wallet, which contained several business cards and telephone numbers. They began by searching the address listed on his driver's license. A former roommate told agents that Salameh no longer lived at that address. However, they were able to find some belongings of Salameh's that he had left behind. There were news clippings and photos relating to Nosir, and a photo of him and Nosir together. There were numerous bank records. There were also more names and numbers for investigators to pursue. Analysis of all the confiscated phone records led investigators to an apartment in Jersey City. The landlord who owned the apartment at 40 Pamrapo Avenue confirmed that Salameh and another individual rented the apartment from early January of 1993 until the end of February. The landlord could not confirm the identity of Salameh's roommate, After executing the warrant, agents discovered that 40 Pemrapo Avenue was the bomb factory, the place where the conspirators mixed an explosive powerful enough to rock the World Trade Center. Inside the apartment and an adjacent garage, FBI forensic examiners recovered traces of a diverse range of chemicals. While agents searched the apartment, the identity of Salameh's mysterious roommate emerged. They found papers requesting political asylum in the name of Ramzi Youssef, who, according to the documents, had been detained in September of 1992 at Kennedy Airport for entering the country without a visa. The Pemrapo Avenue apartment was a gold mine for the FBI. At every step of the investigation, Ramzi Youssef's name appeared. He was a known international terrorist and an expert with explosives. Agents now believed he was the mastermind behind the World Trade Center bombing. They soon learned that he fled the country the night of the Trade Center bombing. An international manhunt for Ramzi Youssef had begun.
A worldwide hunt is on today for a sixth suspect in the Twin Towers bombing, and there are also reports of a possible motive for the bombing. Does this look familiar? It's a scene eerily reminiscent of the crater formed by the bomb at the World Trade Center. Actually, it's the El Rashid Hotel in Baghdad after it was hit by a U.S. missile in January. CBS News is saying that it was in retaliation for that incident that the bomb was set at the World Trade Center. Meanwhile, more information is coming out on the new suspect. He's identified as an Iraqi, 25-year-old Ramzi Ahmed Youssef. He came to the U.S. via Pakistan back in September. He reportedly did not have a visa and asked for political asylum. He failed to show up for a hearing on his request last week. Youssef once lived in the same Jersey City apartment building as the first suspect arrested, Mohammed Salameh.
And only yesterday, the head of the FBI's New York field office, Jim Fox, told me about a sixth man now being sought.
Ramzi Youssef is the so-called sixth man that the press has been talking about for some days. He is charged with participating in the bombing itself, not simply aiding and abetting the bombing. We've been looking for him for a number of weeks without success. If I had to guess, I would guess that he is overseas by now and that that's where he will be found.
Let me throw out a few seemingly unrelated facts. Fact. Back in the early 80s, one of the pillars of U.S. foreign policy was something called the Reagan Doctrine. It was designed to counter communist gains in the Third World. It was why Washington supported the Contras in Nicaragua and Muslim fundamentalists, the Mujahideen, in Afghanistan. Fact. 2 years ago, when U.S. armed forces first bombed and then invaded Iraq, the FBI here at home significantly beefed up its surveillance of suspected or potential Muslim terrorists. Fact. Immediately after the bombing of the World Trade Center, initial speculation focused on Serbian suspects, so that when the New York Daily News, the day after the bombing, got this particular phone call on one of its news-tipped lines, no one paid any particular attention until weeks later, just a couple of days ago, in fact.
Hi, this is the Liberation Army. We conducted the explosion at the World Trade Center. You will get our demand by mail.
And then, of course, you're also aware that a letter subsequently came to the New York Times. That letter claiming that the motivation for the bombing was American ties with Israel. And that letter said at one point, Israel is responsible for terrorism against Arab citizens all over the world. Now Americans must see what it feels like to be the victim of terrorism.
At first, there were 5 to 7 different groups and organizations that took blame for the 1993 bombing. But eventually it was discovered after his arrest that the chemical engineer, Nadel Ayad, was the one who made the call, taking claim as the Liberation Army. Authorities were able to trace Ayad through phone calls he had made to Youssef while he was in the hospital briefly recovering from a car accident he was in with Mohammed Salameh due to his clumsy driving. But we will re-examine the reporting of Ted Koppel and ABC Nightline investigation on 1993 Ground Zero about the FBI beefing up its surveillance during the first Gulf War in 1990, as well as the pretext instigation with Iraq and Ramzi Youssef. And like Youssef, Mahmoud Abu Halima, aka the Red, had also fled right after the bombing, but went to Egypt, where eventually he was captured by authorities there, as well as interrogated and brutally tortured so bad that he begged to be handed over to the U.S. authorities as soon as possible, knowing that he would be given humane treatment. When the feds interrogated Mahmoud, they brought to his attention that they even considered him being suspect to Mustafa Shalabi's murder, because red hairs were found on Shalabi's fingernails. Mahmoud also has a younger brother named Mohammed Abu Halima. His photos are often confused with being Mahmoud. Other suspects you will see in Sheikh Rahman's inner circle ahead claimed that the brother Mohammed Abu Halima attended a training session in Pennsylvania with Yusuf testing out his bomb.
With 4 conspirators now in custody, authorities decided to bring them to trial while the search for other bombers continued. In February of 1994, a year after the bombing, the trial concluded. The jury forewoman read off 38 pronouncements of guilty: conspiracy, explosive destruction of property, interstate transportation of explosives, and murder.
It was the worst act of terrorism on U.S. soil, and an angry federal judge called the men convicted of carrying it out sneaks and cowards. Nothing more, nothing less. Judge Kevin Duffy handed down the same sentence to all 4 men, 240 years in prison with no chance for parole. Although they could appeal, it is my intention, said the judge, that you stay there for the rest of your life. It is what government investigators had wanted.
I think it's very fulfilling to see this kind of a sentence handed out by the court.
Each of the 4 convicted men, 3 Palestinians and 1 Egyptian, delivered long, rambling statements about how unfair and unjust they thought their trial had been. They were convicted on 10 counts of planning and executing the World Trade Center attack. That explosion 15 months ago killed 6 people, including a pregnant woman. Her husband asked the court to give his wife's killers the maximum sentence.
I don't think words can put on, you can use any words to say what you lost when you lost your wife and an unborn child.
The judge levied a $250,000 fine on each of the men and ordered that any money generated by book or movie deals would go to the victims' families. But he added, I can't picture anyone giving you anything.
Mohammed Salameh, the chemist Nidal Ayad, Ahmed Ajaj, the man who brought the bomb manuals into the country, and Mahmoud Abu Halima, known as the Red, will spend the rest of their lives in prison. The mastermind, Ramzi Yosef, and his accomplice, Iyad Ishmael, were still fugitives.